Get out the vote efforts now underway with the election coming up November 5th. Early voting in Illinois starts September 26th. And a lot of things going to be popping off between now and then. Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell each and every weekday morning. We go live with America's Talking Network, and be sure to go to thecentersquare.com where you can see the latest articles, some of which we're going to be reviewing in this segment, ranging from the election to corruption allegations, going to trial, and so much more. Right here with the Center Square. I'm Greg Bishop, an associate editor for Illinois with the Center Square. Thanks for being part of the program each and every weekday morning. But go over to thecentersquare.com where you can see the latest headlines, including with conventions in the rearview mirror, parties work to get out the vote. So head over and check this article out. A lot of this we talked about yesterday with Senate Minority Leader John Curran. Sitting down with us live, and a lot of you have seen that. But let's go to this headline here. With conventions in rearview mirror, the Illinois parties work to get out the vote. So obviously, Democrats officially nominated Kamala Harris for president last week in Chicago. The Republicans, they nominated Donald Trump in Milwaukee last month. The Center Square was on the ground covering both of those conventions, and you can go to America's Talking Network and check out some of the archives of the interviews. But also on Friday, the Illinois State Board of Elections, they certified the ballot for president, and that included keeping independent candidate Robert Kennedy on Illinois' ballot. Now, Kennedy, Friday, he endorsed Trump. He announced he's taking his name off of battleground states ballots while staying on in Illinois and other similar states that could negatively impact Harris. What kind of impact that's really going to have, it's a great question. I did ask Lisa Hernandez. She is the chair of the Illinois Democratic Party of Illinois, and she was talking Thursday last week at the convention about all of the ground game they've got going on. But when I asked her if there's any concern she's aware of Robert Kennedy endorsing Trump and how that could impact those who are undecided or disenfranchised Democrats, maybe, she says she wasn't aware of any of such concern. But she said that Democrats are hitting the ground with their teams to drum up support for their party's ticket up and down the ballot. And here's Lisa Hernandez on that issue. Let me make sure we've got this pumping through and go.
That's also included in the plan. So, I mean, we are really making a conscious effort. We really try to think of everything imaginable that would prepare us and be ready. And frankly, you know, it's 2 years in, and I'm speaking truthfully. Immediately, I saw the lack of presence from the party, especially downstate, and just the need for resources. So we're on it. We're on it.
So that the need for resources being across the states, but Democrats in Illinois also talked about sending some of their surrogates to other states. And you see headlines as well of how much money is going around, including Governor J.B. Pritzker using some of his political war chest in other states, including Arizona. But we'll look at some of the fund totals here for Republicans and Democrats. So Democrats who have supermajorities in both legislative chambers in Illinois, they've got a lot of money and they've got to secure those seats for their party. Republicans, on the other hand, in super minorities in both chambers. I talked with Senate Minority Leader John Curran yesterday, and he talked about how Republicans have to get out there, but but he's seeing a bit of a sea change politically, and as far as some voters saying they're done with Democrats.
I represent a portion of Cook County, and that part of my district and the surrounding areas, voters are moving towards us. They have had enough of the constant corruption in Cook County and the city of Chicago, all run by Democrats, and that is pushing them towards the Republican Party. What we have to do is make sure that we continue to operate as a big tent and pull these people in. Don't push them away, pull them in, and that's ongoing.
So some of the various candidates who are running as Republicans in the Chicagoland area, including in Chicago, they're saying that they need support from the Republican Party. Traditionally, you don't see much competition, right? I mean, even in the primary, there were a bunch of uncontested seats with Democrats not being opposed by a Democrat and there being no Republicans on the primary ballot. Well, the slating process in Illinois was upheld this year, despite the state legislature passing a law saying if you didn't run in the primary, you can't run in the general election. This year, a Sangamon County judge said, well, that law is unconstitutional. You can't switch the rules up mid-election year. So that's not going into effect this year, meaning those slated candidates will be on the ballot. And they're in some, traditionally deep blue districts. But Republicans are out there trying to offer up choice to voters, one of those being Frederick Walls. He's a Republican running for the State House in Chicago. And he talked about how the Republican Party really needs to step up and help support financially, especially with advertisements, some of those Republicans in deep blue districts.
Someone high up in the state need to donate to campaigns like mine that, because we need, the Democrat candidates have a lot of funding. If we had the funding, or at least 10% of their funding, we could do some advertisement and it would help get our name out. Because a lot of people, last year in 2022 I ran, and I was knocking on doors that they had already mailed in their ballot because they didn't know me. But I can only reach so many houses walking door to door. So that's the biggest thing, the biggest way that the Republican Party can help is donate to the candidates running.
So clearly Republicans asking for help from the Republican Party. How much money they've got to help, it's another question altogether. But Curran, he said that indeed that's a work in progress as well.
No, I think the Republican Party right now is in a growth phase, and the city of Chicago, Cook County, this is an area where we are growing more of a presence. We need to. That work is ongoing right now. What you're going to see in future elections is, more resources put into actually getting candidates on the ballot for the primary, rather than using the mechanism that is going to be expiring after this election cycle.
So again, he's referring to that slating process that Democrats tried to outlaw for this year, but a lower court said, no, can't do that. All right, so let's take a look at some of the financial situation here. The Democratic Party of Illinois, if you pull up Illinois Sunshine, great website that pulls in all of the state's Board of Elections data on campaign finance. You'll see cash on hand, Democrats have $1.3 million, almost $1.4 million. But listen, you look at the top 25 donors for all time. Governor J.B. Pritzker has given $14 million to the Democratic Party of Illinois. That's over several years. All right, $14 million. Friends of Mike Madigan, almost $13.4 million. Another fund associated with Mike Madigan, this is going way back to 2008, but $6+ million. So a lot of big one-person donors here, including Governor J.B. Pritzker, who recently just gave. And if you look at all donations, you can see that Governor Pritzker recently, August 13th, gave $500,000 to the Democratic Party of Illinois. And clearly that helped boost it to nearly $1.4 million in cash on hand for the Democratic Party of Illinois. Now, those dollars obviously going to be going to different candidates, so it'll be transferred out. and how those dollars are used for campaigns, for vendors, and a variety of other things. But let's look at Illinois Republicans and how much money that they've got on hand. So pulling up from Illinois Sunshine, Illinois Republican Party, we'll just click on that link there. It shows that they've got about $745,000 cash on hand. All right, $745,000 compared to the Democrats. Nearly $1.4 million. Some of the top donors, of course, Rauner back in the day, former Republican governor, $36.8 million. But that's way back, latest date was 2018. But if you look at all recent donations and monies going back and forth, the House Republican organization, that's the organization that helps fund state House candidates. You can actually click through there and see some of the donors and funds going out. And some of the other, small donors, I say, but still thousands of dollars. Dean White and even some corporate donations from the Boeing company and so on. So clearly, Republicans have some ground to make up for political contributions, and how those dollars are going to be used moving forward in Illinois. We'll definitely do what we can to keep track of that. So that's just one of the headlines you'll find at thecentersquare.com. Again, thecentersquare.com. Check that out. Some of the other things we're going to be keeping an eye on heading into the election. You've got the trial against former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan. This story from my associate Brett Rowland, investigative reporter for the Center Square. Madigan seeks to limit evidence from prosecutors in corruption trial. This is according to the latest court filings in this case against Mike Madigan. There he is, a picture Brett took of Madigan outside of the federal courthouse at a recent hearing way back earlier this year. But let's just read from this story from Brett. Defense attorneys for former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan want to limit the evidence prosecutors can bring to a jury in his upcoming federal trial. Madigan's defense team said that he would not be able to get a fair trial if prosecutors presented all the evidence they wanted to show a jury. Here's a quote from the filing. With relentless pre-trial publicity already underway, Madigan's right to receive a fair trial, the government may now seeks to compound the problem by asking the court's permission to admit a laundry list of inadmissible, irrelevant, and unduly prejudicial evidence, allowing the government to elicit testimony about irrelevant, controversial topics like gaming legislation, sexual harassment allegations in Springfield, and the so-called Metro scandal will dispel any prospect of Mike Madigan receiving a fair trial. Goes on to say the defense team said the prosecutor's approach was wrong, saying that prosecutors are wrong in how they approach things. The government's kitchen sink approach, if this court accepts, would result in unfair prejudice to Madigan, allowing the jury to decide this case based upon emotion, bias, and persuasive propensity interferences. And will inevitably lead to several mini trials independent of the wide range allegations contained in the 117-page superseding indictment in this case. Then it goes into some of the background of Madigan. I think we all know he was the longest serving state house speaker. There was only a couple of years where he wasn't the speaker in the mid 90s. So clearly, facing allegations that he worked to benefit himself and his allies through no work jobs through ComEd in an effort to give ComEd some favorable legislation. So we'll be watching that trial closely because that case is set to go to trial in October, which that's right before the election. So how much headline will that grab? Will it be something that's talked about quite a bit in the lead up to the election? Obviously, we will be watching that closely as well. Some of the other headlines you can see at thecentersquare.com include the latest about the EV fire that happened in Normal with Rivian, the electric vehicle battery fire. And in particular, it's raising safety concerns. Nearly 60 vehicles went up in flames at Rivian's plant that were being prepared to be delivered. And this was over the weekend, but clearly, when it comes to the tax subsidies that Illinois taxpayers provided Rivian, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in those tax breaks, $827 million in tax incentives from the state of Illinois for Rivian. So how that's going to play out and the impact it has on the EV market, which a lot of consumers not necessarily leaping to electric vehicles. So just some of the other things that are there. Also, another headline, students returning to school, not just in Chicago, but you had schools return in the past few weeks. But performance, obviously something that people are going to be keeping an eye on. And you've got truancy and math scores and a whole host of other things that obviously are problematic for some people who, quite frankly, want their kids to get a good education in public school. But it comes at a taxpayer cost, about $16,000 on average across the state for sending kids to school. And that varies widely from Chicago down to Southern Illinois, how much it costs per student, but are the outcomes there? Other things that important to watch. All right. So it is Illinois in Focus Daily. Be sure to wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Get those headlines at thecentersquare.com. And stay up to date with what's going on in and around Illinois. Election coming up in 70 plus days, and early voting with mail-in voting beginning September 26th. What kinds of concerns are out there about election integrity? It's an important question, and we'll work to get those answers. But joining us right now is Carol Davis with the Illinois Election Integrity Project, and talking about ballot security. I think she's somebody to go to be able to raise a lot of questions. So Carol, thanks for taking time with us this morning with Illinois in Focus Daily with America's Talking Network and The Center Square. So walk us through what are some of the latest concerns there are, in particular with Illinois' election process.
Oh, it's never dull in Illinois regarding elections. And we've got several things we're keeping our eye on. As you know, we have been working on trying to get the voter rolls properly maintained in Illinois. And our Judicial Watch lawsuit that we filed in March of this year is still working its way through the courts. We had won access to the rolls last year, and then we turned right around again with partnering with Judicial Watch to sue the State Board of Elections to take the inactive and ineligibles off the rolls. Of course, the state has dragged their feet on that lawsuit as much as they can. And then recently in July, the evil genius of the left, Mark Elias, a top attorney on the left, he sought to intervene in this lawsuit on behalf of the Illinois AFL-CIO and the Illinois Federation of Teachers. So, it's a battle, Greg, on that score. But we are not putting all our eggs in the lawsuit basket. Our voter list maintenance team has been working very hard in many counties to help clean the rolls. We're using a very powerful program, a relational database to do that. And then again, training frontline precinct committeemen how to clean the rolls in their own precincts. So on the cleaning the rolls front, we are miles ahead of where we all were in 2020, but we're never quite where we want to be on that score.
And if we could I want to, before we talk about some of the other potential hazards there, about these voter rolls and the list of inactive voters, what's the estimate? How many statewide inactive voters are there?
Well, once we settled the suit to get access to the rolls, Judicial Watch did an analysis, and out of our around 8 million registered voters in the entire state, They estimate there's about 800,000, Greg, that should not be on Illinois voter rolls. It's stunning. 10% of our rolls are just not, parked. People are parked on there that should not be on there. And of course, it opens the possibility that those names could be used by nefarious actors to cast vote-by-mail ballots.
And are these people who are deceased? Are they people who just haven't voted in, 4 election cycles? Who are these inactive voters?
Well, it's an entire collection, and it's people, of course, who have passed away. It's people who have moved out of the state. It's possibly people who never existed. The sad part is that many of the voter registration processes, especially that we use in Illinois, don't really have a lot of checks and balances. We are, of course, an automatic voter registration state, which means our Department of Motor Vehicles puts everyone that comes in the door on the voter rolls. They have to opt out in order not to be added. So it creates quite a mess.
We're talking with Carol Davis, Illinois Election Integrity Project, somebody who is working with other groups to secure the election. Of course, the list of inactive voters on voter rolls, hearing that number as high as 800,000+, pretty staggering, and that's statewide. But you've also got the issue of federal elections being counted after Election Day. Were you involved with that lawsuit with Mike Bost, I believe, challenging that? Because in Illinois, we take mail-in ballots for up to 2 weeks after Election Day, but groups like Judicial Watch saying that that violates federal elections by extending the election 2 weeks after Election Day.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. 14 days to count vote-by-mail ballots as they come trickling in after the election. It's ridiculous. Well, unfortunately, in that particular lawsuit with Congressman Bost, we did not prevail here in Illinois, and of course that was in federal court. However, Judicial Watch is not giving up on that because there are several other states, quite a few, that allow counting after Election Day. And so Judicial Watch has filed in Mississippi. And, as we know, when you're dealing with federal lawsuits, what is found in one court can impact other states. So we are watching carefully some lawsuits that have been brought in other states. In fact, in the Mississippi lawsuit, they only have 5 days after Election Day in Mississippi to count ballots. But the RNC and the Mississippi Republican Party had also filed lawsuits. So those suits have been joined together in Mississippi, and we'll be watching suits like that around the country very carefully, hoping that there'll be good outcomes there, that it will add strength when we come back to Illinois to try to hit that again.
Carol Davis with the Illinois Election Integrity Program here with Illinois in Focus Daily. We've also got the issue of mail-in ballots kind of just there. It's a process in Illinois. Now people can request permanent mail-in balloting. But clearly, there have been efforts at the State House to try to open that up even more, allowing for counties to just send out mail-in ballots, even if it's not requested. Where are we at in this situation? What are the pitfalls and the dangers of, proliferating mail-in ballots to this degree?
Well, it's interesting. Way back in 2005, President Jimmy Carter and James Baker had the Carter-Baker Commission, and they warned us way back then, do not go with vote by mail. It's a superhighway to possible fraud. And of course, we have seen that all over the country. So it's really important. We have a strategy called Claim Your Name, Secure Your Vote. It's on our IEIP.org website, and it really helps you to secure your vote. With the vote by mail ballots able to be requested back at the beginning of August on the 7th, Of course, you couldn't get a one-time vote by mail, but they want to sweep everyone into the permanent vote by mail list. We strongly advise against signing up for permanent vote by mail. Request a one-time vote by mail ballot. Request it early so no one else can claim your name. Because in the 2020 election, we had that happen to many people who came to vote on election day only to be told, sorry, we've already received a vote by mail ballot in your name. So our claim your name, secure your vote means you claim your name early. You don't have to vote that vote by mail ballot. In fact, we advise never putting a vote by mail ballot in the postal system because it can travel to 3 different states before it comes back to your local election office. Isn't that crazy? And so it is not secure. But again, if you claim your name, get it early, take it to the polling place as early as you can vote. That way, if they do say, well, hey, someone's already cast a vote by mail ballot in your name, then you've got 30, 40 days before election day to call the sheriff and say, hey, my identity's been stolen, and get that sorted out. You don't want to wait until election day to discover that your ballot has been used.
Carol, in talking with some other elections authorities and just looking at Illinois law, the mail-in balloting situation, of course, if you take somebody else's ballot, turn it in, you have to have like a written affidavit of sorts, and the signatures need to be on there, and then the signatures are checked when you physically deliver those. But these ballot drop boxes, there's nobody there checking to see if you've got that affidavit signed to be able to deliver somebody else's ballot, right? So is that a loophole that could be devastating to Illinois elections, especially if, every single vote counts and matters?
Absolutely, Greg. And the sad thing is that the left has had 40 some years to undermine every safeguard in our election process. So absolutely, so much of our elections are based on the honor system. And unfortunately, we're living in a society where there's not much honor and integrity in some people. So it's a situation that some of the top attorneys in the nation have been working on. And we are way ahead of where we were in 2020. But you're right, those drop boxes are a problem. Many states have passed laws against those or put more safeguards into that. So even though Illinois is certainly not on the cutting edge of election integrity, we can be thankful that some of the other and more frankly critical battleground states have taken a lot of steps to secure their elections. But turnout is everything. We have to turn out everyone because there is going to be fraud, and we have to vote enough to overcome it.
Carol Davis with the Illinois Election Integrity Project joining us here with Illinois in Focus Daily. And finally, Carol, I think the elephant in the room is the concerns over if non-citizens are going to be voting in this election. Everybody from President Trump has raised those concerns down to Texas Governor Greg Abbott and some Republicans in Illinois raising those concerns. How legitimate of a concern is that? And how is it even possible that somebody who's a non-citizen could possibly register to vote in a state like Illinois?
Well, it's very possible, and sadly it is happening because, again, the voter registration system is based on the honor system. When they register, they have to use the federal form, and you're designating with a checkbox, I am a citizen. Well, unfortunately, we know many of these non-governmental organizations, NGOs, are greeting all of the aliens the minute they get into the country, and they're offering them, food assistance and housing assistance and healthcare assistance and sign this, sign that, sign the other thing. We'll get you all signed up for all these benefits. And one of those sign here happens to be a voter registration form. So the non-citizens are not going to be showing up in droves to vote at your local polling place. That's not how this is going to work. All the left needs to do is get them on the rolls, which they are doing, and then vote-by-mail ballots will be harvested and cast in those people's names. The left does not really care if a few of those people get brought up on charges of voting when they were not citizens, which is a felony, but to the left, those people are collateral damage. So we have the SAVE Act going through U.S. Congress. The House passed it on July 10th. Everybody is out of Washington now until September 9th. Senator Mike Lee is championing the SAVE Act through the Senate. It's the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, SAVE. And we need to make a lot of noise about this bill. Senator Lee wants to attach this to the must-pass spending bill, which will be probably a continuing resolution that must pass by September 30th. I ask everyone to join the National Only Citizens Vote Coalition. We're doing great work on fighting back against non-citizens voting, and that's onlycitizensvotecoalition.com. onlycitizensvotecoalition.com. And we're having a National Only Citizens Vote Week, September 15th through 21st. And of course, Constitution Day is right in the middle of that week. So we want to make a huge national press to force the Senate to pass that and force whoever's in the White House to sign it into law before the November election.
Well, Carol, when I've brought this up before about like auto voter registration or the process that people take even through various websites to register to vote, elections officials say, hey, there's steps in the way of non-citizens being able to register to vote. Are those steps real?
Well, I want to remind people that back in January of
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, because we have had non-citizens added, and we've caught them on there, hundreds of them in the past. So, the safeguards aren't there. But please have people go to our website. They can do something to help, something as simple as adopt a funeral home. Look at a local funeral home's website and get that information to our voter list maintenance team. We'll have some training on that after Labor Day online. And, it's all hands on deck. It's everybody on the field. We've got to have judges, election judges, poll watchers. This is not the election to sit out, folks. We've got a lot that we've accomplished. We're way ahead of where we were in 2020, but we need every person. Every good person can do something to help.
Carol Davis, Illinois Election Integrity Program. Greatly appreciate you taking the time this morning. We'll definitely have to connect again as we get closer to the election to see what kinds of changes have been made, if at all, especially with the lawsuits lingering in other states. Greatly appreciate you taking the time this morning.
Thank you so much.
All right. It is Illinois in Focus Daily here with America's Talking Network. Appreciate Carol joining us live. Again, we'll have to catch up with her and get a response from the State Board of Elections and other elections officials as to some of these concerns. But be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning here with America's Talking Network. All right, that's all I got for you today here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Be sure to follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way. Shout out to those in the chat room live this morning. I do want to give you guys, again, a programming note. I'm taking Thursday and Friday off, all of next week off, and Monday and Tuesday of the following week. Definitely need to take a break after covering 2 national conventions and the state fair and gearing up towards the election. So we will have Illinois in Focus Daily tomorrow live, but then Thursday and Friday I'll be off. All right, so enjoy. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Go to thecentersquare.com. Even though I'm taking off, the team at the Center Square is not. So they will have regular content for you, keeping you updated on everything you need to know, especially in these interesting political times. And it's not just Illinois that the Center Square has. If you've got interest in other states, go check out the states section, but also what's going on over in Washington, D.C. So be sure to get the newsletter at thecentersquare.com. And it's a nonprofit newswire service. So if you feel like donating to the Center Square, you can do that. Go to the website, thecentersquare.com. All right, everyone, thanks for taking part as always. And that chat room is lively. If you guys are able to join it early in the mornings, we start at 8 o'clock. Pretty lively chat audience there, having their voices heard, talking back and forth about the issues and more. So be sure to take part in that as well in the mornings with Illinois in Focus Daily, right here with America's Talking Network on YouTube. All right, and also search for Illinois in Focus anywhere you get your podcasts. We'll see you back here tomorrow for Illinois in Focus Daily.